Hi guys, this is a quick video for 320 and above on sitting down with writers. So you've already done training videos on the editorial process and how to assign stories. So we're going to dive a little tiny bit deeper into sitting down with writers. So first of all, for many of you, this is not natural. First of all, if you're a 320 student, this is really new. You're probably thinking, I just got out of being a reporter and now suddenly I'm telling people how to write. So I can respect that. However, you're going to be learning by doing, just like you learned by doing as a reporter. And you may not have all the answers, and you'll go to other editors for that type of stuff, and you'll get better. The other thing is it just might feel really, just awkward to sit down with somebody and talk about their writing. Again, who are you to be telling them about their writing? You're both college students, whatever. But you got to do it anyway. Okay, you're an editor now, suck it up. I'm just kidding, but do it. All right, so how do you do it? First of all, I know you're not reading all the stories. You've got to read every story, every word of every story. Sorry, you got to do it word for word, yes. Then prepare, before you sit down with your writer, prepare to sit down with them and tell them at least one good thing that they did well. They did something good. Maybe they got you the story on time. Maybe the whole thing's a mess, but they met their deadline. Whatever it is, I want you to tell them something that they did well. They did do something well. Then sit down with the writer. This means you have to assign the story and have a deadline that leaves you enough time for this part of the process. So, you want your writers to do things on time. Well, you also need to assign things on time, right? Then tell them what you liked. And then handle any quick fixes you can. Some of these stories, they're about events, they're, kind of not super involved news stories. And it may be a matter of just saying to them, hey, you gave me 2 sources, you didn't give me enough sources. Or it may be, and so you have to go out there and go get another source. It may be that they gave you all human interest story sources, like all student sources, and that you need to say to them, look, we need an authority source here, or maybe you need more than one authority source. So handle those things with your writer. Don't let them off the hook, but again, you need to give them enough time when you assign the story to build in this process so that they can go out and do something about what you say. It might be other quick fixes like the type of lead, like maybe you assigned them a feature story and they gave you a news lead. Or maybe you assigned a news story, but it was about a speaker and they gave you a regular summary lead instead of a speech lead. So those are the types of things that you can kind of handle quickly. And remember, you're always on the lookout for libel, you're always on the lookout for accuracy and avoidance of GFEs. And you're kind of trying to figure out, are they really having troubles at the sentence level or AP style? Yes, your copy editor will handle those, but it's also your job. All right, so here's what you got to do. That's the quick fixes, but here's the deeper level stuff. The first thing is clarity. If your students, if your writers are writing about a story that's harder to understand, like doing a story on the budget, which can be really difficult even for me having worked here for a long time, or doing stories that involve legal things, or doing stories that are about new policies. Your writers are going to have a tendency, especially if they're new, to go listen to interviews and just jot everything down and put it into the story. Or they're going to read something off of a website about whatever the issue is. Or they're going to read a pamphlet. And they're going to take any of that stuff and just stick it right into the story without trying to really understand it. So you are the fresh eyes that are stand-ins for your reader. I want you to read those stories and don't read it, in terms of thinking about yourself as a writer. I want you to read it as a reader. If there's anything that's confusing the story, you are the reader. You're going to be responding exactly to what other audience members are going to. Don't ignore that. I talked about not ignoring red flags. Go back to the writer and say, I didn't really understand this statement that mentioned a certain policy. I don't get it. And have them explain it to you. And you know what? Chances are they're going to be confused by it too. And then you have to push them to do deeper reporting to go back. My husband's home. I'm going to pause this for a minute and start up again. Okay, I wouldn't be surprised if when I look back at this, I totally jumped because the dog barked because my husband was at the door. So, at any rate, I think I was talking about clarity, and when you're doing a difficult story, and or when the writer's doing a difficult story, and they just basically write down whatever the person they've interviewed has said, or the pamphlet, or what's on the website. And your job is to tackle that stuff. And if the writer doesn't, if you don't understand it, you have to express it to the writer, and then you have to help the writer go get those answers. And sometimes the writer doesn't know the campus as well as you do, but sometimes you don't know the campus either. So you both have to, you have to be modeling for that writer how to go find information. Maybe it means talking to other people in the classroom. Maybe it means going back to that source and asking them who else the reporter could talk to. Whatever it is, you have to model the same behavior that you want to see in your writers, which is taking initiative and finding information. Another thing that your writer might be having a hard time with, which has to do with these non-quick fix answers, these deeper ones, are transitions of logic. Now, I could have just said transitions in the sentence or in the story, like, saying on the other hand, or from here, or whatever, or still, or other transition words. But even though the transitions are revealed through those words, and that can be an easier concept, what I'm really talking about is, are the paragraphs, even if they have transition words, are they the right transition words to set up the relationships between ideas? And so if you have something in a policy that has now caused something else to happen, which then caused a reaction from somebody else, you need to make sure that those transitions and the logic that's created by those transitions is clear, and that it works. So that might be in itself a harder concept to for you to understand, let alone explain to your writers. And if you have a hard time understanding what I'm saying, definitely come talk to me. Finally, you want to help your writers write deeper stories. So you may have assigned them an event story. That's pretty easy. They go to an event, they write about it. But I'm talking about stories, again, like things about the budget, or things about policy changes, or even stories about, people, profiles, and stuff like that. You want to help your writers get to the point where they're writing deeper, more involved, more engaging stories. And to do that, they really need to be talking about examples. This helps with news stories because, again, those harder concepts, once they get clarity about it, they can help the reader get clarity by saying, this policy, which administrators say is going to do this, if there's, a lack of money available, you want to use words or have the writer use words like, for example, or what this means is, and then whatever follows that is supposed to be really conversational so that your readers will understand what the writer is trying to get across. You also want the writers to use anecdotes, and this is really, really important with things like profiles. It's not enough to just say, hey, this person has been working at Skyline for 20 years, and they love philosophy, or whatever it is. You need to really get, or have the writer get at the anecdotes, the real meat of the story. What was the moment that instructor knew they wanted to be a teacher, or what has been the most transformative moment in the classroom, or whatever it is. And you want to help them dig into the story and find out why they do what they do, why they love what they love, why they're passionate about what they're passionate about. And then last on the list, I'm talking about deeper stories, and that means multiple perspectives. So if you're talking about something, you want to make sure that there's balance in the story. You guys already know that. So, if it's about a budget proposal, you want the advantages and maybe somebody who might talk about the disadvantages to the new budget. But oftentimes there's more than one perspective. And so encourage your writers to really make that picture fuller. Okay, that's all for now. I can hear my family has just gotten home again, or the rest of my family. And so hopefully this helps you.